therapy is much more accessible than you would ever imagine in the past, right? And many of those things that happen online are
Yeah.
free to the public.
That's so interesting because when I think of therapy, I think of it being a one-on-one. I'm paying a therapist hundreds of dollars an hour to
Mhm.
have a dialogue.
Right.
But what you're saying is no. The benefits of therapy aren't restricted. Hi, and welcome back to Raising Men. Our guest today, Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst, has spent decades working at the very heart of the issues surrounding raising men. She started her practice with preschool boys who are often mislabeled as hyperactive or problematic. And that's something that strikes very dear to my heart because I was one of those boys. What she discovered changed the course of her career. So let's get into it. Dr. Vanderhorst, Gloria, welcome to Raising
Thank
Men.
you. I am glad to be here, and this is a hot topic.
It is. It's an honor to have you here. Now, let's talk a little bit. What is the emotional desert that so many boys grow up in, and how does that come about?
It comes about through unintentional interactions with a male infant. The surprising thing about boys is that you were born with a broader range of emotional expression than girls.
Interesting.
You have
Okay.
a broader range of emotional expression, which means infant boys can go higher on the positive end. They have more emotional acceptance, more emotional interest. On the positive end, the same thing is true on the negative end. All right. They can go lower, deeper, and they are born with this capability. They are different from females at the very beginning. They have a much broader range of emotional expression. But by and large, they interact with females, mother, nannies.
Right.
That's changing because there are many more men at this point staying home to raise their children than there were in the past, but still the majority. And I think if we tracked those infants, we'd see something dramatically different in their emotional capability. But by
Interesting.
and
Yeah,
large,
and I can imagine that the work from home phenomenon is also contributing positively to that. I mean,
for
I
sure.
I am not a stay-at-home dad by any stretch of the imagination, but I walk
Mhm,
my boy to school every day.
mhm.
I spend a lot of time around him that I wouldn't spend if I were going to an office every day.
Right. And that's fabulous because you will have a different interaction with him than a female will have. I'll
Yeah.
give you a really good example, basically about my own granddaughter. She had a male teacher in kindergarten,
Wow.
and they were doing um, just playing with paints,
Uh-huh.
right? Finger painting.
Uh-huh.
So everybody had a piece of paper and all these different colors that they could dip their fingers into. So she's playing and making those colors on the page, and then she moves on to the table, right? She's putting color on the table.
Sure.
Then she moves down the table leg,
Yeah.
right? And the male teacher, I'm convinced if she'd had a female teacher, she would have been told to stay on the page.
Mhm.
The male teacher took his phone out and just recorded the whole thing, right?
Wow.
He just let her go any place she wanted to go with those colors, and she went all the way down the table leg as well. So there's a huge difference in the emotional reactivity of men and women. And
Yeah.
it shows up at the infant level. Boys are much more expressive. And I think mothers don't do this intentionally. Mothers' range of emotional expression is narrower. So when the boy gets more intense,
Mhm.
mother's reaction, even if it's subtle,
Yeah.
right? Even if she just backs up a little bit or frowns a little bit, or makes some kind of gesture that goes, "Hey, I don't get it. I don't know why you're getting so intense."
Yeah.
Infants are emotionally brilliant. It's their only survival mechanism. So
Yeah.
they read the room perfectly. So if mother is giving me negative feedback as a little infant boy, I'm going to narrow that range.
Yeah. Sure.
I learn immediately, oops, that wasn't popular. That's not safe. And so I'm going to narrow the range of expression. Boys do that in infancy. And then they start to walk. And boy, do we go after them emotionally.
Hmm.
I tell people go to a playground, watch the interaction between parents and a little girl, parents and a little boy, right? The little girl falls off the slide, skins her knee, runs up to mom or dad. She gets
Mhm.
picked up
Yeah.
and asked, "What happened?"
Hmm.
Little boy, exactly the same injury, runs up to mom and dad. He gets asked, "What happened?" If he gives a good enough response, he'll get picked up and receive comfort. But the majority of the time, he'll just be, "Hey, go back. You're okay."
Yeah.
Right? It's all right. Just a little scrape. That is a huge difference
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah. Because they're seeking that connection, right? And so yeah, we
Mhm,
just I can see how this expanded range emotionally early as a baby can
mhm,
actually yield a situation where the correction happens so early and so often.
mhm.
Whereas with the girl, her narrower range of emotions
Right.
ends up
Won't
not
get
getting corrected at all. So
right,
what that results in is as they get older, they have a much narrower band because they've been corrected so often, whereas the girls end up with a wider band
right,
because they weren't corrected as much.
right on target, right?
That's really fascinating.
Right
I
on
find
target.
and I'm connecting that back to my own experience. I have a boy, a 6-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, and it
Mhm,
is absolutely the case. Our boy is very deeply feeling, very emotionally connected. If anybody is upset around him, he feels it.
mhm.
And I've just always thought that, oh, well, that's just the way he is.
No,
He's
that's
that
his
way,
natural talent
but that's
as a
his natural.
male.
Yeah.
That's his natural talent as a male.
But I've also found that this has caused him problems as he gets
Oh,
into the real world, and as he gets into
yeah,
school, he kinda got mislabeled, right,
that's
as
right,
problematic,
right,
and it was especially in, pre-kindergarten as he's trying to figure out how to work with other kids in the culture and in
right.
school, um, it became a problem. What are those early experiences, about that reveal about how our culture misunderstands boys?
Well, our culture shames boys. All right. And then
Yeah,
think about that just as the emotional load that a male carries.
yeah.
We do shame boys. They're not supposed to cry,
Mhm.
right? They're not supposed to have any sense of tenderness, right? So, your son, you have a second child. Here's a baby in the house. Right? And it's natural for the older child to be interested, to be curious, to want to make connection, to show care and concern. We're going to honor that if it's coming from an older girl.
Mhm.
But when it's coming from an older boy, parents are going to go, right?
Yeah,
They're going to back away from it. They might enjoy it for a brief period of time, but the culture that we live in tells us that boys are to narrow their emotional expression, and we like them to be assertive, aggressive, but not tender.
Mm.
Right? Not lovingly, right? Not softly connected. We rob them of that capability and we do it intentionally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine you think that's a bad thing. Why is that a bad
Yeah,
thing?
my tone of voice can tell you that I definitely think it's a handicap.
Yeah.
I get the function of it.
Mhm.
All right. If you go back in time, we'll put you back into caveman time. All right. I want the guy to be brave, aggressive, pick his spear up, go out, not have any sense of fear, trepidation.
Yeah.
I want him completely cut off from the negative end of the feeling continuum. All right. I
Mhm.
want him to be bold because I need him. All right.
Yeah,
To go
bold
kill
and
something.
maybe a little stupid.
And maybe a little stupid,
Yeah.
but I need him, right, to go kill something
Yeah.
so that I can be fed, the kids in the cave can be fed, and we've, done this for centuries upon centuries.
Mhm.
I don't think it continues to be adaptive,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
we're
I talk
in a
about
culture that
I
can
like
expand.
yeah, I like to talk about the 2 brains, right? We have what
Mhm.
I call the Conan the Barbarian brain, which is that brain that the one that can go out and kill the food.
Right,
A
mhm,
and react
right.
instantaneously with violence if needed and on all of those sorts of things. And then there's the Sherlock Holmes brain, which, is the one that, allows us to think and learn and improve over time and all of that stuff. And
Mhm,
we have abstracted our society and culture has abstracted out the need for the Conan the Barbarian brain, except for certain professions and that sort of thing. And so that means that if boys are particularly good at dropping into that Conan the Barbarian brain,
right,
and
that's
it's
right.
harder to stay in the Sherlock Holmes brain. But that means that unless you happen to be in a profession where you absolutely need that, it's maladaptive.
It
And
is maladaptive, right? So we rob boys
yeah.
of that capability, all right? We keep them in the Conan Barbarian brain piece, and then we expect them to grow up to have intimate relationships with the opposite sex or
Mhm.
with the same sex, but we expect them to have emotional relationships.
Mhm.
That's not possible, right?
Right.
That's difficult. That's stressful because they don't access the full range of emotions. They access irritation, they access aggression, all right? But they don't access tenderness. They don't come home and disclose about feeling injured emotionally
Yeah.
because someone else got an assignment or a promotion that they thought that they deserved. They come home angry about that, right?
Yeah. You're right.
And what can I do with that? All I want to do with that is tamp it down,
Yeah, that's right.
right? I don't want this guy getting angry and belligerent and aggressive. But he can't access the disappointment, right? He can't access the fear that, gosh, I may never get this promotion or this assignment that I think I'd be great at. So we have developed the opposite of what we want for couple relationships. We've made it impossible for the guy to tap into softer feeling states and actually be heard
Yeah.
about those injuries.
And I mean, even at that level, so, I let's imagine I don't get a promotion I think I deserve, I come home angry about that. My anger is not gonna do any good.
Right.
It doesn't anger does not solve any problems in our modern culture. I'm
Right.
not
It's a
going
secondary
to
feeling. You feel
yeah,
something else first. The
mhm,
anger is the escape from that thing. And so
yeah.
what you want is you want to find out, well, what's the primary feeling that
Yeah.
that guy is having?
What's my anger trying to tell me?
Right.
And then what do I do about it long term? How do I make sure that I how do I do a better job at promoting myself if that's the
Right.
issue, if,
Hmm.
whatever it is, yeah, and if all I do is get angry and talk about how mean my boss is and how he doesn't see me, well, that doesn't it's not gonna get
That's
me
not
anywhere.
going to help. No,
Yeah.
it's not going to get you the next advance.
I understand a lot of your career has kind of it starts with looking at children, and then
Right.
it kind of expands into their fathers who end up
That's right.
entering therapy because of their sons.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
what do you see as the common emotional wounds that you see in these men as a result of this kind of thing?
Well, the common thread for men is that they never get legitimized for feeling hurt, feeling sad, feeling injured.
Yeah.
They can't express those. So they can express irritation, they can express anger. I mean, the reason the divorce rate is 50%, and oh, the stats will tell you that the divorce rate has declined.
Mhm.
That's not true.
Hmm.
The reason it's declined is that people are not getting officially married
I see.
anymore. They're not
Right.
going to the
Right.
courthouse
And
and
so the divorce
signing
is
the
now just a
paper
breakup.
that makes it a record for the government.
Yeah,
A
it's on
and
track.
so their divorces are still happening. People are splitting up at about the same rate
Right.
that they always have, but it just doesn't show up in the records, and our jails are full of men
Oh man. Yeah, yeah, that's a
because they
huge
cannot express the full range of emotion
yeah.
and problem solve about what are the injuries that they're experiencing in relationship, at work, and dynamics with friends. Men don't disclose to men. That's the other thing
Yeah.
that happens. All right.
Part
Men
of my
stay
motivation, even
connected.
starting this podcast, was a realization that my wife had 6 or 7 people that knew every detail of our lives, and she shared just every tiny little thing, and every incremental thing that she needed to share
Right.
was a tiny little effort for her.
Hmm.
Whereas I had a friend come to me and tell me that after 20 years, he's getting a divorce,
Hmm.
and about all the problems that he had been experiencing over the last year that were uh, unfixable,
Right.
and we
Hmm.
hadn't spoken about it. In
Right.
20 years, we hadn't spoken about any of the problems in either of our relationships, and I hadn't shared with him, and he hadn't shared with me, and this
Hmm.
is my best friend
Yeah.
from middle school,
Right. Yeah.
and
Think of how long you've known that guy, right?
yeah, I've known that guy for maybe almost longer than anybody else in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet, when I found out he was getting divorced, he told me earlier than a lot of other people, but
Hmm.
10 years too late.
Right. Yeah. But that's the tradition. All right. We raise men to function in that way, not to disclose any emotional
Yeah.
detail. You
Yeah, I
can
think
brag
there's
about your successes, all right? But you
yeah,
can't have emotional needs.
yeah. What do you think I mean, for people who might be resistant to that, who might argue that, "No, that's what masculinity is, and masculinity is strength," and all of that stuff. What is their argument, and how would you respond to that?
Okay, I've had that argument
Sure, I can imagine.
with people, right? The truth of the matter is that the person who's arguing that is fearing that they will lose their assertiveness, their
Yeah,
power, their sense of being invigorated. It's not true. You're not going to lose that. You're going to add to that.
mhm,
You'll have a stronger sense of how to express a need, how to develop intimacy with both men and women that is not sexual. Not every piece of intimacy
Uh,
is sexual.
Sure.
But I think that's the fear, right? If I'm a guy and I access feeling states that are intimate and deep for me, and then I share them with another guy, my fear is that's going to roll into sexual intimacy. And it's not going to roll into sexual intimacy unless you want it to go there,
Yeah, in which
right?
case, good. You just figured something else about yourself that is that
Right.
is that is good, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I think this is a good segue to talk about your book. You've written a book called Read, Reflect, Respond: The 3 R's of Growth and Change. Tell me about that.
Yes, this is a journal book. This is a book for everyone, men and women, and it is different in this way. Each essay is stimulating. It will tap into pieces of your history. It'll tap into feelings in the present. It'll bring up memories maybe that you have had hidden, and everything is recorded in your brain. Your brain's wonderful, right? It stores absolutely everything.
Right.
You have memories even before you were born. The last trimester in utero, you have memories. So those are up there. You have memories from the day that you were born. All of those are up there. They can all be accessed. And so this book has a series of essays that can tap into those early pieces of history, but it's different in that the facing page where you can respond to the essay is a blank piece of paper. It has a couple of stimulating questions on it, but it's blank for a very good reason because you store memories in terms of pictures and in terms of actions and also in terms of language. But most of the time, journal books only ask you to tap into language.
Mhm.
Well, language, written language, doesn't start until what? You go to school, first grade, 6, 7
Yeah, 5 or 6, yeah.
years old, right?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you got a lot of memories before that.
Mm.
And from 6, 7, when you add language to your brain,
Man, you
you
just said 6,
still
7, and my kid is gonna go crazy.
but you still store information in terms of visual memory and
Yeah.
kinesthetic memory, which is action memory. So I'll show you this book. All
Oh,
right.
it's gorgeous.
Here's the facing.
Yeah.
But here's the critical piece. Here's an essay, and here's the blank page.
Yeah.
You can scribble, draw, you can use intensity, um, and the essays have very interesting titles. Here's one: Are You Your Own Con Artist? Think about
Wow.
that.
Wow, that's a
Right?
that's a really, really powerful statement. I it makes me wanna do it.
Yeah. It's fabulous, and so it enables you to tap into early pieces of history that have been hidden, and they influence you,
Yeah.
right? Right now, each one of us is being influenced by some early piece of history that we're not exactly aware of.
Mhm.
But if we take time to engage in reflection and let our brain access all of those pictures, all of those actions, along with the words, we're going to be able to do a deeper and a more healing experience will happen. It's guaranteed because that information is there and it jumps into the present when you least expect it.
Sure. And if you don't do it on purpose, it'll happen accidentally in ways that are usually bad.
Right. That's
Yeah, and
absolutely right.
are I one of the things that I've seen happen, and I mean, I think I've experienced this in myself somewhat, and I've definitely seen it amongst other people, is as you start to access these old memories and
Mhm,
these old stimuli,
mhm,
um, the results can be very strong, and the intention is to say, "Oh, okay, now I understand why I react in this way
right,
to this thing, why I get so mad when my wife doesn't replace the toilet paper roll. Like, that should be a
right,
minor thing, and
mhm,
yet it turns into this enormous thing,
mhm,
and now I understand why." The next step is then, okay, and I can now defeat that thing. But one
mhm.
of the next steps that can happen is, oh, now I can blame that thing that happened back when I was 5 years old for my emotional outburst and justify it. And those are the 2 possible things, and sometimes people go to that other place, which, what how do you keep from doing that?
It isn't a matter of keeping from doing
Okay.
that, alright? That's one of the advantages of therapy is that if you're the guy who does that, you have to have someone challenge you,
Mhm.
alright?
Yeah,
Because the only reason that you'll hold on to the justification is fear.
I
I'm
see.
afraid that if I really look closely at my emotional needs, that they will not be filled,
Mhm.
right? And then I really will be crushed. Then I'll really be in trouble
It's
because
like
now
not going to the doctor because you're worried you might have cancer.
that's right. It's
Yeah.
exactly like that, and that's so common
Mhm.
in men. Men do not take care of themselves out of fear, all
Sure.
right? That's why they die younger, that's why they have more diabetes, that's why they have more heart problems, that's why they're more overweight. It's fear.
I think, in my own personal experience, therapy has been so helpful in so many ways, and yet therapy really isn't accessible to everybody, either because of cost or cognitive dissonance, or there aren't enough therapists in the area, or any of those things. And it seems to me like your book is a way to help bridge that gap.
It's definitely a way to help bridge that gap, and I would also it's like an introduction to
Yeah.
therapy, if you will, right? If I'm able to respond to these things, to the essays, if I'm able to get insights into some of my early history, then I'm more open to exploring myself. But I'm gonna challenge you about the accessibility of therapy
Mhm.
because there are changes taking place, all right? Internal family systems, which is a marvelous process for understanding yourself, is opening up to the public, right? And having workshops, having presentations, having online services provided, having group experiences. Therapy is much more accessible than you would ever imagine in the past, right? And many of those things that happen online are
Yeah.
free to the public.
That's so interesting because when I think of therapy, I think of it being a one-on-one, I'm paying a therapist
Mhm,
hundreds of dollars an hour to
mhm.
have a dialogue.
Right,
But what you're saying is, no, no, no. The benefits of therapy aren't restricted to
right.
just that one-on-one. That might be,
It's a
kind of,
that's a fabulous way to grow, right? Because you
yeah. I mean, it's great, fine if you can afford it.
right?
I, but there
You
are
can also get it pro bono. I will
sure,
put in a plug
sure,
for pro bono services,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's
I love
more accessible, um, month after month after month, year after year. The availability of being able to tap into therapeutic resources is increasing over time, and people need to know that so that they can take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think that that group setting also helps with another real deficiency in the masculine experience, which is
Mhm.
lack of community.
Mhm.
And and so I can kinda kill 2 birds with 1 stone there, can't I?
That's right. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've run men's groups before.
Mhm.
And you get a group of men in a room together, and the first thing they must do is they must posture
Yes,
with each other, right?
absolutely. Yeah, we're playing a status game, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that has to there has to be time and space for that at the beginning of a group experience if it's all male. Um, Women do some posturing, but usually they're really ready to dive into emotion.
Interesting.
Men need to test out, is this going to be a safe place for me?
Yeah,
Right? Can I
yeah.
bring my success into the room and get acknowledged and valued? And if I can bring my success into the room and get valued, then I can take the risk of bringing my need, bringing my sorrow, bringing my worry into the room. And it's incredible to
Hmm.
watch a group of men actually support each other, go deeper in terms of disclosure with each other, and create safety for each other. And that's happening all over the United States. There are more men groups, there are retreats that are offered for men specifically just to take that deeper dive into who are you, what's your history, what's the emotions that you've experienced and packed away or denied as important to you. And it's you can do a search online and find those organizations. A
Yeah,
lot of group work is online.
we'll put some links in the show notes. But you've touched on something that I really wanna drill into for a moment,
Mhm.
and that is that for men to experience the kind of emotional safety that is required in order to open up in this context, there's almost a ritual that has to take place,
Yeah,
and women
absolutely.
don't have that.
They do not. They don't have to go through that process.
So my wife experiences emotional safety differently than I do. It's
Mhm.
almost like an inverse of walking down the street at night, right?
Mhm.
I can walk down the street at night and I don't have to worry about being physically attacked.
Right.
And my wife can open up with her feelings with her friends and not have to worry about being emotionally attacked.
Right.
And it's the inverse for me.
Mhm.
I don't have that experience. I
No.
have to I would absolutely feel walking into a group like that, that I would need to posture and make it clear, "Oh, no, no, I am a successful guy
Right.
that
Mhm.
has his shit
Mhm.
together, but,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do have this thing."
Right, and I drive this kinda car, right? Yeah,
Right, yeah, yeah,
these are my
here's my
my
car key,
keys,
and my golf handicap is this,
right? And I
and would you
love
like to
this
see my
kinda
app?
giant dog.
A giant dog, yeah, who has all these great tricks. Yeah, I'm
Right.
with you. I'm with you 100%. That's fascinating. It's never actually occurred to me that that parallel there, where
Mhm.
emotional safety is as inaccessible to me right away as physical
Right.
safety is to a
To
woman.
her. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
really, really interesting distinction.
Mhm.
Now, tell me, for parents listening, especially parents of boys, what are the first practical steps that we could take to help raise emotionally healthy boys?
Yeah, the first thing that I encourage parents to do is to reflect on your early interactions with that boy. Go back in time, be transparent, be honest with yourself,
Right.
right? What happened inside of you, both mother and father, when your little boy cried,
Yeah.
right? Figure that out. And at what point in time in the development of that boy did you decide to treat crying as something that you didn't like, were afraid of, wanted to discourage, wanted to diminish. You owe your son an apology,
Yeah.
right? You need to be transparent. I tell this story about a friend who had a little boy same age as my little girl, and my daughter took something, favorite toy, from the guy, wouldn't hand it back. So he heads over to his parents, and his father whacks him in the chest, lands him on his butt, and tells him to stop crying.
Uh,
Now, that's insane.
yeah.
Right? Legitimately, his favorite toy has been taken away from him. He has
Right.
every right to complain and to cry, to receive comfort, to be given some strategies on how to go back and get it away from her or
Right.
trade her for something else. Right? He needed help and support.
Yeah.
Instead, he got aggression and shame. That
I can
happens
totally see how that comes
constantly for
about.
boys.
Yeah. It's like we think that we need to train them
Mhm.
to not be to not be babies.
Not be
Because if
tender,
we let
yeah,
them be babies now, when they're 3 years old,
mhm,
then at 28, he's gonna be a baby, and he's not gonna be
right,
able to handle it when a girl breaks up with him or whatever it
right,
is.
or whatever,
And
right?
that's actually not true.
Not true at all.
It's actually the reverse.
Mhm,
By training them not to be babies when they're 3, you're building somebody brittle, and
that's
they
right,
come across as strong, but then when they really get hit hard, they fall apart.
that's right, they
As
can't
opposed to
manage it.
building somebody resilient who
Right,
can experience
right,
emotion and not let it overwhelm them.
and that's why suicide is more prominent among men than women.
Extremely more prominent. It's
Mhm, yeah,
terrifying. That statistic
wildly,
terrifies me. Yeah,
wildly more
80%
prominent,
suicide.
even of some of the most successful people in the culture.
Yeah,
So, it's
yeah,
criminal that we are not paying closer attention to allowing acceptance of the full range of emotions in our infants, toddlers, preschoolers. That's the target.
yeah.
That's the place it has to start.
That's a beautiful sentiment, and I is it happening or is it not happening?
It
Are we
actually
moving in the right
is
direction?
happening. It actually is happening. The sociological research will show you that teenage boys, for example, in this day and age, have more access to their emotions than their fathers did at that same age. So it is happening.
Yeah,
But at the same time, there's this layer for both males and females of discouraging emotional expression. So it's complicated because of the use of cell phones.
is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, you will find two teenagers sitting next to each other, and they're both focused on their cell phone and they're typing. All right. And then if you ask, who are they talking to? Who they're communicating with? It's the person sitting next to them,
Each other. Yeah,
right? They're talking to each other. So they're missing facial expression, they're missing body posture, they're missing tone of voice.
right.
92 or 3% of communication is all of those things.
Sure,
It isn't just the text
sure.
message. All right. So they're reducing the effectiveness of communication and they're adding uncertainty to their messages. Because if I call you a jerk, right, I don't know if you're a jerk or
Yeah,
you're a jerk,
sure.
right? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. That's 100% right. And I mean, I'm not at the age. My son isn't at the age. But I mean, he's 6 years old, and he's already asking me for a phone.
For fun.
Yeah, and he wants to spend all his time on YouTube. And I know that it's gonna when he finds out about Instagram and TikTok and
Right,
Facebook, he's maybe not Facebook because the youngs that's not cool anymore.
right.
But I I'm terrified of it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
if I could restrict his ability to access social media of any form
Mhm,
until
mhm.
he's 18 years old, I'll do it,
Yeah,
or 21. The longer the
yes,
better. I think
right?
that we are going to realize at some point that we are doing the largest uncontrolled experiment in the history of
We are,
humanity on our
we are.
young children
Yep,
with
and
AI powered social media.
right, we are. We're absolutely it is a huge experiment, and because of the way that we're constructed, it's an experiment that's not gonna turn out well.
Yeah. I I I believe in the innate goodness of humanity, and I do think the overall arc of history bends positive, but I don't see how this one resolves well.
Yeah, I don't think it will
Yeah.
resolve well.
And I mean, and by the way, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, there's nothing I can do to change that arc or to do anything about social media. But so what I'm focused on, and partly the reason that I even have this platform is I want to know what I can do tactically.
Mhm.
I want to know, what are the day in, day out tactics that I can do to make sure? How do I talk to my kid about having a phone and social media and say, yeah, this is why we're not doing it, and we're going to delay it, and these are these are the dangers, so that he has a chance of being able to navigate this culture when he grows up in a way that helps him succeed.
Well, it isn't just setting the limit, all right? We do have to set limits,
Yeah.
right? We should not be giving a four-year-old a phone,
Right.
and we are. We're giving
Yeah, I
four-year-olds
know.
the phone, right? And they have little pictures on them so that you can dial mom or dad or grandma or so
Wow.
yeah, we're starting at that age, but it isn't just limiting access. We have to be intentional about providing engagement for that child. So the wall behind you tells me that you are intentional about providing engagement. All right. It took time for
Yeah.
your kids to make those things. All
Yeah.
right. And they weren't on media in order to create them. All
Yeah.
right. They had a blank piece of paper in front of them and crayons or paints or
Right.
colored
Yeah.
pencils, they had access to being creative. And you obviously are encouraging that because the wall is full, right?
Yeah.
And things are overlapping. And so we have to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We have to be intentional about the type of activity that our children engage in, and we have to be thoughtful. We have to plan ahead and say, all right, here's my 6-year-old asking for a cell phone. I'm not going to provide a cell phone,
Yeah.
but what am I going to do so that my 6-year-old feels like he belongs, right?
Yeah.
Because he's asking for a cell phone,
Right.
probably because someone in his class, or more than one, has a cell phone,
Mhm.
has some device, and he wants to fit in and belong. So now you have the opportunity to talk about, to plan, to figure out how to meet that need for a sense of belonging and connection. I
You're
don't
making
need to
such an
give a
important
cell
point
phone.
here, and I really wanna just underscore it, and
Mhm,
that is that I can shut down the behavior if I wanted to,
mhm.
and he can come to me with a cell phone and say, "No, we don't have cell phones. You're not." And he'll ask me, at what age can I have a cell phone?" And I go, "I don't know, man. It's like at least 13, maybe it's 15 or 17. Like, it's a long way off." And believe me, he's counting the days until he's
Right.
13 so that he could start
You
pestering me.
started a calendar.
Absolutely no question. But what I'm not doing if I do that is addressing the underlying need.
Right.
And I have an opportunity here. He comes to me
Yeah.
for asking for me for a cell phone. And what I
Mhm.
can do is he's asked me, "At what age can I get a cell phone?" I can just answer the question.
Mm.
Or I can say, "Well, why do you want a cell phone so bad?" And I can engage him in a discussion and figure out what the root cause of the
Right.
desire is.
Mhm.
And then I can go ahead and address that root cause now. And I
Right.
can train him that you can meet your needs
Mhm.
in ways, even if you think that the thing to meet your needs is A, you can meet it in
Mhm.
another way, and that's just as satisfying.
Right. Right. And in fact, it's more satisfying.
Yeah. I had this really, really interesting thing that happened with my boy yesterday. And so we were getting ready to go to, and I don't normally succeed like this, but we were getting ready to go to a lunch, a
Mhm.
breakfast with Santa.
Uh-huh.
And we were supposed to be there at noon, and it was getting towards the time that we had to leave, and we were a little bit pressed for time, and it was a nice event, so I needed the boy to wear a nice shirt. And
Mhm.
he spent 10 minutes just absolutely freaking out about the fact that he had to wear a nice shirt.
Mhm.
And I was stressed because I was trying to get ready in time. And when I finally had the time, I sat him down. And I said, why is this so distressing to you?
Mhm.
And he said, I mean, I feel weird when I'm wearing a nice shirt. And I said, listen,
Mm.
we're going to this event. Everybody's going to be dressed up. And I promise you, if you're the only one who's not dressed up, that will feel weird.
That will feel weird. Yes.
And by the way, here's all the great stuff about this event. One of his favorite things in the entire world is buffets.
Mhm.
He's a big kid. He's hungry all the time. He loves buffets. Plus, he can, make a pancake with candy on it.
That's right.
And so I said, we're going to this lunch and there's going to be a buffet there. And he
Mhm.
lights up. And I said, I want you to enjoy this lunch as much as you can. And I promise you that if you wear a nice shirt, you're going to enjoy it more.
Mhm.
And you're
Great
and you
connection.
will feel left out. And I was able to connect it back just luckily
Mhm.
to this sense. This he felt like he was going to feel left out. He was wearing too nice of a shirt, and it was going to be
Mhm.
the opposite. And I ended up being right, and he had an amazing time. And but it actually he had spent 10 minutes freaking out about this shirt thing, and it flipped the switch.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
flipped the switch for him.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. And I actually didn't put that together until just now that that's
Mhm.
actually what I did is
Mhm.
I I I accidentally, haphazardly addressed the root cause of why he was feeling insecure about wearing this shirt.
Right.
And then it changes. It just absolutely goes
Yeah,
away.
so the shirt, the cell phone, he's sending you very powerful messages
Yeah.
about his need to feel included, to
Yeah.
feel like he belongs, to feel like he blends in with everybody else. So you can also take a deeper dive
Yeah.
into that because clearly he's saying, this is a theme for
Yeah.
me. All right, this is a powerful theme. I
Yeah.
want to belong. I want to be included, and I'm questioning it all the time. It's kind of coming up in my head. Do I fit?
Yeah.
Do I fit?
Yeah. And I mean, of course we all feel this way. And I so naturally they would feel that way. But both my kids are unusually large
Mm-hmm.
for their age. And so, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally, he's head and shoulders taller than every other kid in his class. And
Uh-huh.
the girl's the same way.
Yeah.
And she has other kids like remarking to her about her height and her weight.
Right.
And she feels weird because she's so tall.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're looking for ways of getting them into environments like sports where their size is an asset so they
Mm-hmm.
can feel pride about it
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what happens. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's that's another part of the challenge
Yeah,
is,
and
okay,
helping them to build friendships.
yeah,
Right? One-on-one relationships with 1 or 2 kids in their class so
yeah,
that they feel like they really have a sense of belonging,
right,
is powerful.
yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. Now, I always like to finish up these conversations by asking the same kind of question. I'll put you on the spot a little bit,
Okay.
I'm like to collect operating principles about raising young men.
Mhm.
What is one good operating principle that you might think of to help parents who are raising boys?
Yes, I would encourage every parent to take time with their boy to expand his feeling vocabulary. And you can go to my website and get a list of feelings that you can download. It's 4 pages, 3 pages, I guess, and 4 columns of feelings. The truth is, we can all identify what we're feeling, we just can't produce it. So if
Yeah,
you're scanning that list of feelings, what you are feeling will just jump off the page.
yeah,
That increases your vocabulary. All right. So now I own that feeling and I couldn't produce it before. Before I could produce, I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling hurt.
mhm.
But
Now you have
now
all these other
I,
words for it.
I
Right,
can
and
produce much more elaborate descriptions of
yeah,
my feeling
it's
state.
like learning a language.
It is. It's definitely learning a language.
Yeah. Well, so I commit to you now. I'm gonna print that out and put it on the wall downstairs.
Yeah, good.
In
I tell
and,
people print it out, put one in the kitchen, one
yeah,
in the living room or where the television is,
yeah,
and one in the bedroom
yeah,
so you have easy access. And honestly, it's m miraculous, right? You can identify what you're feeling just if you scan the words, but you can't drag it out of yourself.
yeah. I'll put it next to so we have this bell, um, and the bell has a little sticker on it that says "Need love." And so when any of us are feeling like we need love,
That's
but
great.
are having trouble,
What a great
expressing that,
tool.
we can just ring the bell.
That's a good
And,
tool.
so we'll put the list right next to the bell.
Perfect.
I love that. Well, Gloria, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome,
bringing
Sean.
such depth and compassion and clarity to this conversation. Just listening to your voice makes me feel uh, um, more centered and more
Mm.
powerful. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with you. For everybody listening, you can follow Gloria's writing, her weekly blog, her resources, and a link to her book through the links in the show notes. And I encourage you to absolutely dive into her content, especially if you're a parent wanting to raise boys with emotional courage or access that stuff yourself. Thank you for joining us today
Thank
on
you. I've
Raise.
enjoyed it. It's a great
Really appreciate it.
conversation.
Until next time, remember you are a great parent. Raising Men is produced by Phil Hernandez. This episode was edited by Ralph Tolentino.